The Great Collection Sutra says, though for countless existences in the past, the ruler of a state may have practiced the giving of alms, observed the precepts, and cultivated wisdom. If he sees that my teaching is in danger of perishing, and stands idly by without doing anything to protect it, then all the inestimable roots of goodness that he has planted through the practices just mentioned will be entirely wiped out, and his country will become the scene of three inauspicious occurrences. The first is high grain prices, the second is warfare, and the third is epidemics. All the benevolent deities will abandon the country, and although the ruler may issue commands, the people will not obey them. The country will constantly be invaded and vexed by neighboring nations. Violent fires will rage out of control. Fierce winds and rains will abound. The waters will swell and overflow, and the inhabitants will be blown about by winds or swept away by floods. The paternal and maternal relatives of the ruler will join in plotting revolt. Before long, the ruler will fall gravely ill, and after his life has come to an end, he will be reborn in the great hell. And the same fate will befall the ruler's consort, his heir, the high ministers of the state, the lords of cities, the village heads and generals, the magistrates of districts, and the other officials. The passage I have quoted from these four sutras are perfectly clear. What person in 10,000 could possibly doubt their meaning? And yet, the blind and the deluded recklessly trust to distorted doctrines and fail to recognize the correct teaching. Therefore, throughout the empire these days, people are inclined to turn away from the Buddhas and the sutras and no longer endeavor to protect them. Because of this, the benevolent deities and sages abandon the nation and leave their accustomed places. As a result, demons and evil spirits bring about disasters and cause calamities. The guest thereupon flushed with anger and said, Emperor Ming of the later Han dynasty, having comprehended the significance of his dream of a golden man, welcomed the teaching of Buddhism brought by white horses. Prince Jogu, having put down the rebellion of Maurya, an opponent of Buddhism, proceeded to construct temples and pagodas. Since that time, from the ruler on down to the common people, all have worshipped the Buddha images and devoted their attention to the scriptures. As a result, in the monasteries of Mount He and the Sultan capital at Nara, and the temples of Onjoji and Toji, throughout the land bounded by the four seas, in the 5 provinces of the capital area, and along the 7 marches, Buddha images and Buddhist scriptures have been ranged like stars in the sky, and halls of worship have spread like clouds. Those who belong to the lineage of Shariputra meditate on the moon atop Eagle Peak, while those who adhere to the traditions of Haklinayashas transmit the teachings of Mount Kukutapada. How then can anyone say that the teachings of the Buddha's lifetime are despised, or that the 3 treasures of Buddhism have ceased to exist? If there is evidence to support such a contention, I would like to hear all the facts. The host, anxious to clarify his words, replied, To be sure, Buddhist halls stand rooftop to rooftop, and sutra storehouses are ranged eave to eave. Priests are as numerous as bamboo plants and rushes, monks as common as rice and hemp seedlings. The temples and priests have been honored from centuries past, and every day respect is paid them anew. But the monks and priests today are fawning and devious, and they confuse the people and lead them astray. The ruler and his subjects lack understanding and fail to distinguish between what is correct and what is erroneous. The Benevolent King's Sutra, for example, says, Evil monks hoping to gain fame and profit, in many cases appear before the ruler, the crown prince, or the other princes, and take it upon themselves to preach doctrines that lead to the violation of the Buddhist law and the destruction of the nation. The ruler, failing to perceive the truth of the situation, listens to and puts faith in such doctrines and proceeds to create regulations that are perverse in nature and that do not accord with the rules of Buddhist discipline. In this way, he brings about the destruction of Buddhism and of the nation. The Nirvana Sutra states, Bodhisattvas have no fear of mad elephants. What you should fear are evil friends. Even if you are killed by a mad elephant, you will not fall into the three evil paths. But if you are killed by an evil friend, you are certain to fall into them. The Lotus Sutra says, in that evil age there will be monks with perverse wisdom and hearts that are fawning and crooked, who will suppose they have attained what they have not attained, being proud and boastful in heart. Or they will be forest-dwelling monks, wearing clothing of patched rags and living in retirement, who will claim they are practicing the true way, despising and looking down on all humankind. Greedy for profit and support, they will preach the law to white-robed laymen and will be respected and revered by the world as though they were arhats who possess the 6 transcendental powers. Because in the midst of the great assembly, they constantly try to defame us, they will address the rulers, high ministers, Brahmans, and householders, as well as the other monks, slandering and speaking evil of us, saying, these are men of perverted views who preach non-Buddhist doctrines. In a muddied kalpa, in an evil age, there will be many things to fear. Evil demons will take possession of others, and through them curse, revile, and heap shame on us. The evil monks of that muddied age, failing to understand the Buddha's expedient means, how he preaches the law in accordance with what is appropriate, will confront us with foul language and angry frowns. Again and again, we will be banished. The Nirvana Sutra says, after I have passed away and countless hundreds of years have gone by, the sages of the 4 stages too will have all passed away. After the former day of the law has ended and the middle day of the law has begun, there will be monks who will give the appearance of abiding by the rules of monastic discipline. But they will scarcely ever read or recite the sutras, and instead will crave all kinds of food and drink to nourish their bodies. Though they wear the clothes of a monk, they will go about searching for alms like so many huntsmen who, narrowing their eyes, stalk softly. They will be like a cat on the prowl for mice, and they will constantly reiterate these words, I have attained arhatship. Outwardly, they will seem to be wise and good, but within they will harbor greed and jealousy. And when they are asked to preach the teachings, they will say nothing, like Brahmins who have taken a vow of silence. They are not the true monks, they merely have the appearance of monks. Consumed by their erroneous views, they slander the correct teaching. When we look at the world in the light of these passages of scripture, we see that the situation is just as they describe it. If we do not admonish the evil priest, how can we hope to do good? The guest, growing more indignant than ever, said, a wise monarch, by acting in accord with heaven and earth, perfects his rule. A sage, by distinguishing between right and wrong, brings order to the world. The monks and priests of the world today enjoy the confidence of the entire empire. If they were in fact evil monks, then the wise ruler would put no trust in them. If they were not true sages, then worthies and learned persons will not look up to them. But now, since worthies and sages do in fact honor and respect them. They must be nothing less than paragons of their kind. Why then do you pour out these wild accusations and dare to slander them? To whom are you referring when you speak of evil monks? I would like an explanation. The host said, in the time of the retired Emperor Go-Toba, there was a priest named Honen who wrote a work entitled The Nembutsu Chosen Above All. He contradicted the sacred teachings of the Buddha's entire lifetime and brought confusion to people in every direction. Nembutsu Chosen Above All states, regarding the passage in which the meditation master Kōchō distinguished between the sacred way teachings and the pure land teachings and urged people to abandon the former and immediately embrace the latter. First of all, there are two kinds of sacred way teachings, the Mahayana and the Hinayana. Judging from this, we may assume that the esoteric Mahayana teachings and the true Mahayana teachings are both included in the sacred way. If that is so, then the 8 present-day schools, the True Word, Zen, Tendai, Flower Garland, 3 treatises, Dharma Characteristics, Treatise on the 10 Stages Sutra, and Summary of the Mahayana, all are included in the sacred way that is to be abandoned. The Dharma teacher Tan Luan, in his commentary on the Treatise on Rebirth in the Pure Land, states, I note that Bodhisattva Nagarjuna's commentary on the 10 Stages Sutra says, there are 2 ways by which a bodhisattva may reach the state of avaivartika, or non-retrogression. One is a difficult to practice way, the other is the easy to practice way. The difficult to practice way is the same as the sacred way teachings, and the easy to practice way is the Pure Land teachings. Students of the Pure Land school should first of all understand this point. Though they may be people who have previously studied the sacred way teachings, if they wish to become followers of the Pure Land teachings, they must discard the sacred way and give their allegiance to the Pure Land teachings. Honen also says, regarding the passage in which the Reverend Shantao distinguished between correct and sundry practices and urged people to abandon the sundry and embrace the correct. Concerning the first of the sundry practices, that of reading and reciting sutras, with the exception of the recitation of the meditation on the Buddha Infinite Life Sutra and the other sutras that preach rebirth in the Pure Land, the embracing, reading, and recitation of all other sutras, whether Mahayana or Hinayana, esoteric or esoteric, is to be regarded as a sundry practice. Concerning the third of the sundry practices, that of worshipping, with the exception of worshipping the Buddha Amida, the worshipping or honoring of any other Buddha or Bodhisattva or deity of this world is to be regarded as a sundry practice. In the light of his statement, I declare that one should abandon such sundry practices and concentrate upon the practice of the Pure Land teachings. What reasons would we have to abandon the correct practices of the Pure Land teachings, which ensure that out of 100 persons, all 100 will be reborn in the Pure Land, and cling instead to the various sundry practices and procedures, which could not save even 1 person in 1,000? Followers of the way should ponder this carefully. Honen further states, in the Chen-yuan era catalogue of the Buddhist canon, we find it recorded that from the 600 volumes of the Great Wisdom Sutra to the Eternity of the Law Sutra, the esoteric and esoteric sutras of Mahayana, or the Great Vehicle, total 637 works in 2,883 volumes. The phrase from the Meditation Sutra, reading and reciting the Great Vehicle, should be applied to all these works. You should understand that when the Buddha was preaching according to the capacity of his various listeners, He, for a time, taught the two methods of concentrated meditation and unconcentrated meditation. But later, when he revealed his own enlightenment, he ceased to teach these two methods. The only teaching that, once revealed, shall never cease to be taught is the single doctrine of Nembutsu. Honen also states, regarding the passage that says that the practitioner of the Nembutsu must possess three kinds of mind, it is found in the Meditation Sutra. In his commentary on that sutra, Shantao says, someone may ask, if there are those who differ in understanding and practice from the followers of the Nembutsu, persons of distorted and mistaken belief, how should we confront them? I will now make certain that their perverse and differing views will not cause trouble. These persons of evil views with different understanding and different practices are compared to a band of robbers who call back the traveler who has already gone one or two steps along his journey. In my opinion, when this commentary speaks of different understanding, different practices, varying doctrines, and varying beliefs, they are referring to the teaching of the sacred way. Finally, in concluding passage, Honen says, if one wishes to escape quickly from the sufferings of birth and death, one should confront these two superior teachings and then proceed to put aside the teachings of the sacred way and choose those of the Pure Land. And if one wishes to follow the teachings of the Pure Land, one should confront the correct and sundry practices and then proceed to abandon all of the sundry and devote one's entire attention to the correct. When we examine these passages, we see that Honen quotes the erroneous explanations of Tanluan, Taochoo, and Shantao and establishes the categories of the sacred way and the Pure Land teachings, and of the difficult to practice and easy to practice ways. He then takes all the 637 works in 2,883 volumes that comprise the Mahayana teachings of the Buddha's lifetime, including those of the Lotus Sutra and the True Word Sutras, along with all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the deities of this world, and assigns them all to the categories of the sacred way teachings, the difficult to practice way and the sundry practices, and urges people to discard, close, ignore, and abandon them. With these four injunctions, he leads all people astray. On top of that, he groups together all the sage monks of the three countries of India, China, and Japan, as well as the students of Buddhism of the 10 directions, and call them a band of robbers, causing the people to insult them. In doing so, he turns his back on the passage in the three Pure Land Sutras, the sutras of his own school, which contains Amida's vow to save the people, accepting only those who commit the 5 cardinal sins and those who slander the correct teaching. More fundamentally, he shows that he fails to understand the warning contained in the second volume of the Lotus Sutra, the heart and core of the entire body of teachings the Buddha expounded in the 5 period of his preaching life, which reads, if a person fails to have faith but instead slanders this sutra, when his life comes to an end, he will enter the Avicii hell. Now we have come to this latter age, when people are no longer sages. Each enters his own dark road, and all alike forget the direct way. How pitiful that no one cures them of their blindness! How painful to see them taking up these false beliefs in vain! As a result, everyone from the ruler of the nation on down to the common people believes that there are no true sutras outside the 3 Pure Land Sutras, and no Buddhas other than the Buddha Amida with his 2 attendants.